Hello there, and thank you for tuning in. Daniel here, and today we have an email from Kaylebe, who was, who shared some of his trouble sleeping and some questions in episode 109 as well as 119. So do check those out if you would like more background. Now, before we get into his email here, as always, nothing here is medical advice, but just my thoughts that I'm sharing that I hope will be helpful to you, Kaylebe, as well as anybody else that is tuning in. Now, let's get to it. So 16 hours ago, I received an email from Kaylebe titled, "I want my sleep drive back." Let's read it. "Hey Daniel, it's me again, Kaylebe. It's been a while. Thank you for the video response you made to my previous email. It was very insightful. Things are still kind of going the same for me. I recently tried wake therapy for my insomnia. The way I did it was this. I spent one night doing what I usually do, which is staying in bed and trying to get whatever kind of junky sleep I can get. Got up, stayed up as best as I could all day, though I will admit I had a few times where I gave in to the urge to rest my eyes and laid down. I might have fallen asleep during these brief times I was trying to just rest, but I can't exactly tell since my sleep is almost always paradoxical now. But anyway, I did make an attempt to stay up, and my sleep drive did keep increasing at least a little bit. I think if it wasn't, I wouldn't have gotten the urges to lay down. Nighttime finally came. I waited until about 2 or 3 a.m., feeling somewhat sleepy, but not quite as much as I hoped I would. I didn't fall asleep. It was like all the staying up did nothing. I don't understand this. Why does it seem to not matter how much I exhaust myself? I don't get that old feeling I used to get, where I can barely keep my eyes open and I start slouching. I want so badly to just lay down and knock out. It used to be such a good feeling to be able to do that once I finally gave in and slept, of course. And now I will never ever take it for granted. I hope I can get it back. Any ideas of the best way for me to go about getting back my sleep drive? Also, is there any way this could be related to hormone imbalance? Now, there are a few more things here in his email, but I think we'll stop there. So, a couple of things. First of all, Kaylebe has described how he tried this thing called wake therapy. And what is that? Well, this is kind of like something I often talk about, which is a bedtime restriction or sleep restriction. And those are techniques where you stay up late, so you have a strong sleep drive, and that makes you sleepy, and you sleep through, and then you can eventually spend more time in bed. That's kind of a key cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia technique. Now, there is a way to do this kind of on steroids, if you will, and that's called wake therapy. So the way that works is you stay up for an entire night. So you're up during the day, during the entire night, and during the entire following day. So now you've been up, let's say 24 plus 12, like 36 hours or something like that. And then, so the day after not sleeping a wink, you still stay up till, for example, midnight, and then you only allow yourself to sleep 4 hours. Okay? And then you stay up the entire next day, and then you add half an hour. So the following night you sleep from, let's say, midnight to 4:30. And then every night you keep on adding like 30 minutes until you reach maybe 7 hours or whatever the goal is. That's wake therapy. Now, so in light of that, when I read your email, Kaylebe, you have done it, but not quite, the way it's supposed to be done. Meaning, the night you're supposed to like not sleep at all. It sounds like you kind of were in bed trying to get whatever junky sleep you could get. Which means that you may have slept, a little bit. Let's say you slept 2 hours. I'm just making something up, but let's say you slept a little bit. And then the following day, you did rest, which means that you may add another few hours. So that's probably, most likely, why wake therapy didn't work. Not easy by any means, but I think this is why it didn't work. Now, another question here was like, why, the overarching question here is like, why don't I have that sleep drive? Why don't I just like feel really sleepy, close my eyes and go to bed? And I think it's because your sleep is so fragmented, You get a little bit of sleep at night, a little bit maybe in the morning, potentially a little bit more in the afternoon. If you add up all the tiny fragments of sleep, they may add up to, let's say, 4 hours and 42 minutes or something like that. And that may be not that far from your sleep need. Let's say your sleep need is like 5.5 hours, which is not that uncommon. So what I'm trying to say is, like, I honestly believe, Caleb, that if you either did wake therapy, again, but really, really committed to it, which is hard, but you could try that, meaning stay up an entire night, and then the following night, keep yourself completely awake until midnight, sleep 4 hours, and then add half an hour every day. You could do that. Really hard, but it's possible. But why not just try, the core cognitive behavioral therapy techniques? Why not start at, let's say, 5.5 hours or something like that, and say, I'm going to be up every morning at 6 a.m. and I'm not going to go to bed before 12:30 at night, and then just really work on that. I just uploaded an episode that's going to be episode 140 about Kim, and listen to Kim. Like, she is keeping herself up, like literally like walking in circles around the couch, and she is noticing improvement. So basically, I think if you just do like all these cognitive behavioral therapy techniques, like stick to the core techniques, I think you will get your sleep drive back. I really believe it. Now, a second question here also, is there any way this could be related to hormone imbalances? Well, I get this question quite a lot, especially I feel like there's a lot of talk now about adrenal fatigue, for example. Which is like, I never heard about that in med school. I think it's not very well defined. But to answer your question, it's very rare. Let me put it this way. I have, so far in my 7 years practicing sleep medicine, I've never come across somebody with like significant insomnia only to find that, yes, this was due to like and kind of obscure hormone imbalance. I will say that there's some people that have like some trouble sleeping with, or now, you know what? Now think about it, it's actually the opposite. I do have some people that feel like really tired, that turn out to have like hypothyroidism, then they start taking thyroid medication and they feel more alert. But actually, yeah, no, I've never seen any patient that has had like insomnia and then was found out to have like an endocrine disorder, and that was the cause for insomnia. It's really, virtually always a question of either like some stress or anxiety, or like, your sleep pattern is really off. Pain is another common reason, but really, I've never found a single patient that, this was this weird underlying condition that was the cause. The cause is typically pretty obvious. And going back to your case, Caleb, I think the problem is that, you have a little bit of sleep here and there. And I think if you were able to somehow consolidate all sleep into one chunk, and that would be a small chunk, like if you just got all your sleep in a 4.5 hour chunk, consistently, then I think you would be on the right track. Then you could extend that, Caleb did send me copies of a sleep study that was from 2019, and I did take a look at it. Sleep testing, as we talked about actually recently, maybe a couple of episodes ago. Sleep testing is really helpful for checking if somebody has sleep apnea, trouble breathing in sleep. And in your case, Caleb, as you know, you shared this with me, that you didn't have that at all. Like what's called the AHI, like how many times you have trouble breathing in sleep, was 0, which is actually very unusual. So that tells us you definitely have no sleep apnea whatsoever. Now, looking at like your sleep pattern was kind of interesting. When you hear this, Caleb, do let me know like how much you estimated sleeping that night. That could be interesting, because you slept, I think, 136 minutes, so a little bit more than 2 hours. And if you feel like you didn't sleep at all, well, that's just another confirmation that you have some paradoxical insomnia. And for those of you who haven't tuned into Caleb's previous episodes, that was a big problem for him. He had this thing called paradoxical insomnia, where you think you're awake, completely awake, but you actually sleep a little bit. So just a little comment on that. But the other comment was like, I saw in what's called the hypnogram, where you look at sleep stages, that you didn't fall asleep for like several hours. I think you fell asleep somewhere around like 3:30 or something like that. but from then on, seems like you had relatively consolidated sleep, and it looks like you were kind of like woken up from sleep. So it tells me that you know, your sleep drive was there. It made you fall asleep, but it was really late. You may have a delayed sleep phase, in addition to everything that's going on, which is not unusual at all. Or maybe this was a sleep lab, the stress of the sleep lab that made you not fall asleep at all for such a long time. So there was just little comments on that. Caleb, let me know what you think. If you have any follow-up questions, and I hope you will find a way, maybe using CBTI, which I always talk about, find a way to get things under more control, like having some more consistency. And I think that will really, really, really help. For you, Caleb, anybody else tuning in here, do not hesitate to send me an email, daniel@insomniainsight.com. And sorry, .co, daniel@insomniainsight.co. And I hope to have each and everyone tuning in here back very soon. Until then, bye-bye.